Hi, I'm Dave Monty. Welcome to my video series, Everything Villages. Today I'm doing part 2 on my series of pricing, and we will cover how location and lots affect prices of the homes here in the villages, so stay tuned. As always, before we get started, if you like my video series, please subscribe to it. If you like this video, please like it. Both of those actions help these videos reach more people, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you'd like a copy of my free 42-page guide, Buying and Selling a Home in the Villages, you can email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com. I've also recently updated my cost of living calculator, which I greatly expanded to include the income side of things. Basically, I made it into a full budgeting calculator rather than just a cost of living tool. So if you want a copy of that, you can email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com. All right, so like I said in the introduction, I'm doing a three-part series on pricing. The first part we did the importance of getting pricing right, and kind of the nuts and bolts of how to do a market analysis. And today, this is part 2. We're going to do location, maybe just 2 locations. I have another video that I did a couple of years ago, actually. And we do talk about some of the outside communities, and I'll briefly touch on that. And then we'll also talk about lot types. Right, so let's actually get to that right now, inside, outside versus the villages. There's definitely a premium to be living inside the villages. Just outside the villages, the homes are a lot less expensive. And I'll kind of show you here. Here's a kind of a map of the villages. Lakeside Landing is right here as an example. You get the villages above it and basically all the way around it. But the homes in here are probably 30% less expensive than what you would pay inside the villages. Down over, up here, you got Spruce Creek, which is mainly sort of competes against Orange Blossom, manufactured home to manufactured home. Then up here, Stonecrest, which is, very similar designer style homes. It is a retirement community, golf courses, etc. And you're probably going to pay 25% less for homes in these areas rather than being inside the villages. So there, we just checked off number 1 location. So let's talk about location. Let's talk about the number 2 location. The number 2 location is going to be within the villages. Let's step through the different areas within the villages. Okay, and I'm also going to sort of talk about disadvantages and advantages of these areas. The first area is right here. We're going to go oldest to newer. All right. So this is the original section of the villages. This is, a lot of these homes existed before the villages existed. Howard Schultz came in and bought this community here. And it's mainly manufactured homes. The homes are going to be a little bit older. They're going to be built in the late 90s, if not, earlier than the late 90s. They are the least expensive per square foot. They're not cheap. So some of them have golf course views. In my opinion, some of the most beautiful land in the villages is actually in this community. They got probably the nicest pool in the villages. It's very hilly. It's got a beautiful golf course views. Very highly sought after, mainly for price point, but also it's just a really nice place to live. Across Highway 44, real close to Spanish Springs. There's a little bridge right here that gets you from there to here. Okay, so Orange Blossom, if you have a lower end of the budget, and this is what we accommodate, is a very nice place to live. So let's cross the highway over to the Spanish Springs area. I do have a slide in here that says the closer you get to a town square, you're going to have a little bit of a premium. That is going to be location number 3 checkbox. So as you get closer to a town square, the prices get a little bit more. However, this is the oldest part of kind of what I'll call the traditional villages. This is where they first started with villas and the town squares and all that. It's kind of a mixed area. You'll have designers, and there's a few manufactured homes in the area. A lot of these homes need a little bit of help from an updating standpoint, but you can get some really good bargains there. One thing I failed to mention about Orange Blossom in the area is that, from an advantage disadvantage is right here in this area, this is where all your shopping is. The most shopping in the villages. You get anywhere from, Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, Best Buy, Target's right there. A bunch of restaurants up and down between Outback Steakhouse, Chili's, Moe's. I forget the expensive, Chipotle, the expensive one. We went to lunch there the other day. It was $30. And I was like, what for fast food lunch? Sorry, I digress. Anyway, real close to a lot of shopping, and then there's more shopping down in here. All right. So advantages, really great location from a convenience standpoint. The hospital's right there. A lot of the medical is also in this area due to the hospital. Great shopping, a little bit older homes, a little bit more space between the homes. The newer the homes get, the lots continue to shrink, and that's not just a Villages issue. That's happening across the country as newer homes are getting closer and closer together. All right. So let's go up to here, what I call Buena Vista North. I try to, if my clients are looking to update a home, which we do for clients, if you want to look at that video, I call it Biggest Bang for Your Buck, where we help clients update homes for them after they've bought or even before they sell. We tend to like this area because the homes are about 20 years old. A lot of times you can pick up a home that already has a new roof. And a lot of times we can just put some cosmetic updates on these homes and build some instant equity for our clients. Homes are fairly well spaced. You got some shopping up here. You're still real close to the shopping on 441 and real close to the shopping down in this area, which again, another Walmart's down here, Publix, an Ace Hardware, all the banks are here. And right here in Laurel Mariner, there's a lot of medical things down here. You get your VA hospital up here with another Publix and a couple of restaurants and rec center. So, real good location. And as you can see, the prices start to tick up. Okay, so in this area, you're probably looking 245 to 251. Things are vary depending on when I take a look at it, but around the 250 mark per square foot in this particular area. The next section down is what we'll just call Sumter Landing area, and usually, things get sectioned off between 466 and 466A. Very highly sought after environment down here, pretty close to the town square. And this is probably here and the next one are probably the most convenient places in the Villages, because there's a lot of retail down here. There's retail here. There's retail here. There's, the new medical facilities here. You still get medical offices here around the Sumter Landing area. And pretty good access to both Brownwood and to Sumter Landing and to Spanish Springs. We happen to live right here, and very convenient. We're 15 minutes to there, 12 minutes to there, 20 minutes to there. So pretty convenient to the town squares. And then you'll see the pricing all of a sudden just jumps up. As soon as you come over this 466, the pricing jumps up. The other thing that you'll kind of notice in here is that up in this area and in the Spanish Springs area and in Orange Blossom, all those have very mature landscaping. I'm just going to give you my opinion on this stuff. Up here, they didn't clear cut anything, so you have nice mature landscaping, but it's very traditional Central Florida landscaping, not very tropical in nature. When you cross over 466, that's when Gary Morse, the second generation developer, came in, and they started clear cutting these areas, but they planted back with lavish tropical plantings around the homes, in the common areas, and things like that. So, in my opinion, the most beautiful parts of the Villages are there and there. Okay, just when you take a look from an aesthetic standpoint, and also the most convenient locations. Now, getting down to the Brownwood area, that's probably is the most expensive part of the Villages. And why is that? It's the newest home in the traditional side of the Villages. Okay, all of your amenities are up here. And we'll talk about the new area here in a minute. But all of your amenities are up here. It's, like I said, probably the most beautiful area. Even down here, this is even more lavish than it was here as far as landscaping. Again, the newest homes, you start seeing more open floor plans. You start seeing more modern finishes. And in this area, probably the most, most rec centers per capita till you get down here. All right. So that's how pricing changes. So as you go from north to south, the pricing gets a little bit more expensive as you go south, as the homes continue to be newer. Then you jump down below Highway 44, and the prices kind of drop down. Now, why is it less expensive in the newest areas? And again, I think it goes back to location. This is when the third generation took over, and I'm going to point out some of the differences that we see. Number one, very few retail options down there. Now, the developers doing what they can as far as town squares. They just opened up Sawgrass, which is what I'll call Town Square Light. It has eating options, but it doesn't have shopping options. It's a good destination for food and entertainment at night, but doesn't really have that daytime draw at Sawgrass. They are building I forget the name of it, I apologize, but they are building another town square. They say 2 years, but it's taken them 3 or 4 years for the town square light. So you're probably looking about 4 to 5 years out before the other town square, which I believe is going to be down in this area, will be there. What they don't have as much control over is the amount of retail that is down there. You have a Publix and a shopping center right here, which has a McDonald's and normal things that you would see in a normal strip shopping center. But that's it. If you're looking for doctors, a lot of times, unless you're living in this immediate area, you can take your golf cart up in here. But a lot of times when you're down here, you're hopping in your car to do something. If you wanted to take a golf cart from here up to Walmart, as an example, it's probably going to take you an hour and 15 to an hour and a half by golf cart. It's just not convenient. So down in here, the external accommodations or retail, things like that, haven't been keeping up with the development that's been going on down there. So a lot of times you're hopping in your car if you're looking for doctors, if you're looking for dentists, if you're looking for shopping options. So newer homes, if you're a younger retiree, it's a younger retiree crowd. The more open floor plans, more modern features. Homes are a little bit closer together down there. They do have tropical plantings in the common areas, but you don't see it as much as around the house. Like I said, the homes are a little bit closer together, and the landscaping packages are very basic unless you pay for upgrades. So when you take a look down in here, in just my opinion, it's just not as pretty as you would get there or there. It is different than you would get up here. This, again, very mature landscaping, but not very tropical, as an example. I guess the other thing to kind of note about the locations here is that, in this area, they started dabbling in the golf carts, and there's an okay job, but you're sharing the road with cars a lot more in this area. Over here, they started putting in the cart path to parallel Buena Vista, so you're not mixed in with the traffic. And then, as they go further south, that's when, up here, so you're not mixed in with the traffic. You got golf cart tunnels, again, dedicated paths, and they continue down here. Once you get to Brownwind here, they just get better and better as far as how the golf carts are handled the further south you go. Right. So that's kind of the location. This is like locations within the villages. And, if anyone ever wants to have a conversation, I'm always, available to have a phone call and talk about the different areas. When we're helping clients update, we're really looking in this area, or there's another little section right here that I kind of like for updating. In here, down here, we can do some updating, but the homes are getting newer. There's just not as much to do. And then down here, there's no updating because the homes are updated. All right. Okay. All right. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of how pricing varies throughout the villages, per square foot. All right. Now let's go here. And then I mentioned this earlier. The closer you get to a town square, the better. Okay, so there are other things that will affect location. Can you walk to a pool? That might have a little bit of an impact, but not as much. But really, one of the reasons why the pricing gets driven up here is because investors really like it in this particular area because they're easier to rent out. So you have increased competition for homes with investors around here. And you're probably seeing maybe a 5% premium for that particular, for being closer to a town square. Right? All right, so now the next thing, let's talk about, we were staying on the L's in part 2. So we talked about location, location, location. Now let's talk about lots. The standard lot here in the villages is something which we would call a kissing lanai. You're back to back with somebody, and this distance varies. Sometimes you're very close. You may be within 10 feet of the lot line and 10 feet over here, so it might only be 20 feet between homes in some instances. A lot of people do a good job of putting landscaping in here to provide privacy, and a lot of people enclose their lanai. So just depends on your situation. If you're an enclosed lanai person, and you're okay with kind of looking at landscaping, then this is more than adequate. If you're an open lanai person and you like your privacy and all that, this might not be the best option for you. All right. Now, you might pay a little bit of a premium for what I'll call an offset lanai. And meaning here's your lanai, and instead of, you're not looking into their lanai, you're not looking to their lanai, a lot of it is you're looking down the center. And sometimes you'll get these where the homes are at different angles, and which will even create more of kind of a backyard feel in these. So there's definitely a lot premium just to not be just looking directly into somebody's. And what you're paying for isn't necessarily the view or anything like that. The big thing is privacy. So a lot of people just like their privacy. And in this generation that is retiring, most people grew up in homes that had, half an acre lot. As the newer retirees are starting to move in, they're sort of used to smaller lots because, again, over time, over history, new builders are building homes closer and closer and closer together. The next one is backing up to a villa wall. These are courtyard villas over here. You can tell they're kind of, lined up on an angle, almost a little bit like army barracks. But actually per square foot, this is probably more expensive than a designer home. And one of the reasons is because it has a courtyard in the back. Investors like these, people downsizing, people who don't want as much maintenance, yard work. These are very highly desirable. So a lot of times these are more per square foot than even designer homes. But designer homes, not because you have more room in the back, but because you have a wall that goes right here. And that wall provides a little bit of privacy, so you're not looking directly into someone's lanai. Okay? And in there, you're probably looking $10,000 to $20,000 premium. A little bit depends on how close that wall is. If that wall is like right on top of your lanai, it can feel a little claustrophobic, but if it gives you a little bit more space, you're probably closer to the $20,000 mark. Backing to a road is incredibly subjective. There's typically a premium for this, okay? And when I say typically, the reason is because of the privacy. Now, a lot of things can affect this. If there's a golf cart path right there, a lot of people don't like the extra noise of the golf cart path. A lot of times there is a premium, but if I'm listing the home, you might or might not get the premium, or you're going to have to wait for the right buyer to come along. Like I said, if you're an indoor person with, enclosed lanais and you don't care about hanging out in your backyard, that's not every buyer here. So that's going to be a limited set of buyers, and they might be okay with this particular lot. But a lot of people will want a view, and this will happen a lot of times. So this is the same house right here is right there. Okay, so if you have a view across the lot, this is probably a $50,000 premium in there. I put this slide together a while back. So $40,000 to $60,000 premium for that. Here you might be getting maybe a $10,000 premium, not too much, but if you do have a view, a lot of people will put some low berm landscaping here to mitigate some of the traffic noise from the tires, and then still maintain their view. All right. Next one is the cul-de-sac. Is there room for a pool? So usually the cul-de-sac lots have room for a pool. You can see this is a very large backyard, and they're going to vary. Like this one might have a $90,000 to $100,000 premium. This one might be a $60,000 premium. The more you're directly behind the house, the better. Off to the side, that's great, but a lot of people like to look out of the back of the lanai and see the pool. It just adds to the view. All right. So yeah, as I said, 70 to 100,000, depending on which one you choose here. The next one is the preserve view. Okay, now I got lucky when I pulled down this picture because it's I call it a two for one. This view over here might be $100,000 view because it's going to be expansive. This view over here might be a $50,000 to $60,000 view because it's obstructed. So, but again, it provides you that privacy, and then a lot of times you can look over the trees and have more of an expanse of a sky view over there. Okay, so you can see limited review, preserve view 50 to 60, and over here maybe 150 to $200,000. Again, very subjective on these prices. A lot of it has to do with how well it's landscaped in the back and exactly what the view is. But you can expect to pay a premium for a preserved view. Okay, lots with a retention pond, water, and golf. Okay, now, these, again, are subjective. Sometimes you go into Lanai and you got a 270-degree view of golf courses if you happen to be on the right corner. You might have a golf cart with water. You might be on a retention pond that just provides you privacy, but not as an expansive of a view. But in here, you are pretty much looking at a pretty large premium to be on water, anywhere between $150,000 to $250,000. And again, pretty subjective depending on other things. The hard part in here is that a lot of times it's not one or the other. A lot of times it's a view with a larger lot with a pool, and they don't necessarily add on top of one another. It might be $250,000 for this view if it already had the pool in there. So there's some subjectivity when it comes to this. So that's the lot and location. So we covered location. The big things to take away from the location within the villages is going to be the further north you go, the older the homes, the less expensive it is, and it starts to get more expensive as you go south within the traditional part of the villages. The traditional part of the villages has more amenities. It's where the doctors are, where the shopping is, more grocery stores, etc. As you get below Highway 44 into the newer sections, newer homes, more walking paths, less golf, less of landscape packages, homes a little bit closer together. But probably the biggest issue down there is just kind of the lack of retail to support that area. But the Villages is working on, that situation. So that's a temporary situation, but that, temporary, probably, a few years before that's rectified. And then lastly, lots. The things that will affect the lots are going to be, are you going to be a kissing lanai back to back? Do you have an offset lanai? Do you have a cul-de-sac? Do you have a view? Are you back into a road? All of those things will affect pricing. I hope you found part 2 informative. If you like part 3, please watch the next one. As always, if you like this video, please hit like. If you like my series, please subscribe to it. Also, if you like a copy of my free 42-page guide, Buying and Selling a Home in the Villages, or a copy of my what I'll call the cost of living calculator, but now more of the full Villages budgeting tool. You can email me for either one of those right here at davemontysales@gmail.com. I hope to be seeing you around the Villages. Take care.